The last core mechanic we have left to do on our game is making it so that our goal triggers a move to the next level. And this should look pretty familiar because it is very similar to how we did it in the number guess game. We just have to use a slightly different way to go about it. And I did a little bit of work on this before starting to record the video and accidentally saved it instead of redoing it. So I'm going to talk about the steps that you go through because it should be old hat to you. So you have your goal that's already been prefabbed if you've been following directions. So on your scripts folder, I need you to right click, create a C# script, and call that goal, and then go ahead and drag the goal script onto the goal prefab. Remember, if you drag it onto the one in the hierarchy that's already in your scene, you'll have to apply it back to the prefab to make sure that it's attached. And once it is, go ahead and open it up. So on this script, we need to, first of all, we know we're going to be changing our scene, so we need to add at the very, very top the using Unity engine.scene management, because that is what we've used before to control going between scenes. And then we're going to create, I'm just going to take all this and walk you through it. So on here, you're making a private void. It's not in your start, it's not in your update, it's its own little method. And it's going to be called onTriggerEnter2D. And then as soon as you start typing onTriggerEnter, it should pop up two options. I'll just retype this while we're sitting here. So private void onTrigger. And see, we've got a whole bunch of options here. Once we get to this, there's two. There's a lot of very similar things, but we want to make sure it's onTriggerEnter2D. If you select that and hit enter, it automatically fills out Collider2D collision. It's basically looking for the collider that we already have on there and using that to fill in information. And then we're going to use Scene Manager, which we have from our scene management system, .load scene. And then scene manager dot get active scene, because we need to know what scene we're currently on, which is a method, so it has a open and close parentheses. Dot build index, which remember whenever we put our scenes into a build index, they're assigned a number. And then we're going to add 1 to that build index. So basically saying, using Scene Manager, we're going to get the current scene we're on, look at what number it is, add 1 to that number, and load in to the next scene. So save that. That should be on your goal script. Coming into Unity. Now right now, that will not do anything because a couple reasons. One, we haven't dragged anything into our build index yet. And two, we only have one scene, correct? So I want you to go ahead and just for now, duplicate your scene. So if you go into your scenes folder, select your level, and then hit Control D, it will duplicate that whole scene and give you another scene. And then go ahead and rename it. So clicking once, waiting a second, then clicking again to rename. And then go up to the top and your build settings in File, Build Settings, and make sure you drag both of your scenes into your build settings. So level 1 being the one that you're currently on, and level 2 being the duplicated scene. In level 1, I'm going to make it so that it's really easy to go to my next scene so that I can definitely tell whenever I've changed scenes for now. So I'm just going to move this block out of the way and see if our code works. So if I hit play, I can move my ball. If I shoot it, it goes to the next scene. We know it's on the next scene because it's a duplicate of the original scene and the block isn't moved, and we are on level 2 over here in the hierarchy. Perfect. So now we've set it up so that we can go between scenes. Now that we have all of our core mechanics of our game figured out, I want to take a little bit of a break from the mechanical aspect, and let's look at some of the design stuff. So right now we've just been using plain color sprites, and that's fine for a very simple game. But you guys, I want you to make very unique games that are completely your own. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to, at least for now, we're going to download some assets from the internet, from some free resources, and then you can make your game themed however you want to theme it. So I've already done a little bit of research and legwork for you. So on your game design class, there's a resources kind of tab on your stuff. One of them is asset resource sites. It's got the Unity Asset Store, it's got craftpicks.net, Kinney.nl, and another Unity Asset Store. I'm not sure why there's two. But there are so many more. There's freegameart. Or I think it's gameart.org, freegameart.org, something like that. But I really prefer Kinney assets. And I've actually purchased all of the Kinney asset packs. So if there's another one that's called Kinney asset packs, and if you go here, you can find a Google Drive folder which has all of those already posted for you. But the downside to this is that everything, like, you're not going to be able to easily browse what everything he has in there is. And if you go to the website, Kinney.nl, so KENNEY.nl, and click on assets. So let me just go through this process with you. I'm on the main page, and then you click on assets up here at the top right. And basically, there's just hundreds, thousands of assets. So we're making a 2D game. I'm going to go ahead and click on 2D assets. And you think about what kind of game you want to make. So if you don't really know and you just want to browse, that's fine. Maybe you want to make, for some reason, you want all of your blocks to look like little reactions, little emojis, emotes. You could get that pack and use those for your blocks. Maybe you want to do like an animal farm themed pack or a sports pack, or there's all kinds of different themes. But if you just go ahead and browse through all of this, there are tons of different options. What I'm going to do for my game, I want to make kind of a cute robot escape game. I want to make it so that my ball, which I'm going to actually change to something else, is trying to escape through the robots. Maybe I'll give it some more story than that, but for right now, I just really like that these are very cute. I also like that they already have these sprites for how damaged it is, so whenever I go back to working on some of my secondary elements, that some of the objects are breakable. Maybe I'll have different levels of breakableness, and I can use the different types of broken blocks. I like that the robots are different sizes, so I'll have some variety there, make them look like they're different types of things. And I'm also going to use a little bit from this pack. So I think my ball, I'm going to turn into this cog right here. And I feel like my walls, I need to have some kind of indication that my walls are solid. So I think I'm going to use some pieces from this pack, these industrial looking pieces, to kind of create a wall around the edge of my scene, just so that it looks like the wall isn't just magically repelling the cog, it's actually like running into something, and that makes it more clear that there's nothing on the bottom keeping the ball from falling down through it. So once you pick out what kind of assets you want, and you look at the page, you can always click on this preview and it shows you all the stuff that comes in that. And then you click on download. And it does two things. It shows you this donate to him thing. It tells you that it's free to use these in any project, personal or commercial, which is great. He's an excellent person. And then you'll save the file. Put it somewhere you're going to be able to find it. I'm going to save it here in my game design folder. And here again, it's going to look a little bit different on my screen because I'm on my Mac. But basically, if you right-click on it, there should be an unzip here or something along those lines. If you just double-click on it, it will just open it for you. And you don't want that. You need to unzip it. So, oh, I unzipped that one, the wrong one. That's another project. There we go. So if I unzip that and look at it, it's got all this stuff. It's got my preview on here. It's got the sample. It's got this folder is primarily the folder I'm interested in. It's the PNG file. These are all the image assets basically that I need for my project. And I'm going to take this whole folder, and I've already put my robot assets in here. So real quick, I'm going to show you what I did. I'm just going to collapse all these folders down. So right now in my assets folder, there's prefabs, scenes, scripts, and sprites, and materials. And then I right-clicked on my assets folder and made another new folder called stock. This is just like stock imagery is what I'm using that to refer to, like any stuff that I've found or that I'm going to use in my project that I may not use all of it, but it's like the kind of repository that's got all of my information that I could use in it. So I'm going to grab this whole unzipped folder and drag it down into my stock folder. And it's going to import all of this. And depending on how big of a file it is, it may be faster or slower for you. It's not really something that I can determine how fast it's going to be because it kind of depends on which ones you pick. But now you can see everything that I saw in my Finder view. It's all in here now. So I can grab any of the stuff that I want from in here. So say I want, let's keep scrolling. I know in here somewhere is that cog. Here it is. So platform, industrial, blah, 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 all that information. But it's inside of a ton of stuff, like stuff that I will never probably use. So I'm going to click on that and drag it. Sometimes you have to just kind of wiggle at the top of the screen to get it to scroll whenever it's something so long. And I'm going to grab the things that I want to use and I'm going to put them in my sprites folder. That way it's very clear that these are things I'm actually using in my game and these are all just like stuff that I'm pulling from. Now, say I want to go ahead and see how that cog looks on my ball. So I'm going to open up my prefabbed ball down here in my folder, and I'm going to click on the ball. And over here on Sprite Renderer, you see that the sprite is called ball. It's this sprite right here, correct? I'm going to grab my new platform industrial and put it on there. Now my color is right now being changed because that's what it was switched to before. So I'm going to put that back to white because I like this kind of blue steel looking color. And let's see how this runs. Still looks like a ball, right? Still doing ball things. Perfect. So what I want you to do now is go ahead, take a pause for a moment, go through and figure out all the different sprites that you want, all the different things that you are replacing. I want you to go ahead and make sure you have your own ball sprite, your own paddle sprite, and go ahead and figure out what you're going to do for your blocks. Mine is going to be obviously different than yours. All of them are going to be different than yours. So things to be careful of. If you're going to get something that is not exactly the same size square as this, so let's go down here and find something in our stock that's going to be a weird shape compared to maybe not in the industrial one. Let's look in the robot one. Let's get a top view of a robot. So say for our blocks, we want to use this kind of rectangular shape. So let me pull this up. I'll put it in my sprites for now, even though I don't think I'm probably going to use that one. Click on my block, change my sprite to this, and notice because it's prefabbed, it changed all of them to gray. But let's see how it interacts. Make sure everything's lined up the way it's supposed to. Nope, yep, still works just fine. Seems like it's acting normal. Yep. Okay. It looks like the collider is a little bit off, so I'll definitely have to change some of that because it shouldn't be able to shimmy between blocks. That's definitely not something that the ball should be able to do. And it looks like it's a little bit lower than it was before. So what I might actually do is delete the box collider and re-add it so that I know that it's going to be the right size. So if you're changing the size and shape of your sprites, keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and re-sprite my level, and I'll probably actually record the process just so you can kind of see how I went about changing everything and all the different things I changed. I am going to probably speed it up a little bit, and then we'll move on from there. So that was in real time, about 20 or so minutes of me tweaking and playing with things. I did rename some stuff to make it a little bit easier to tell what's what. I created a duplicate of my block to accommodate for my different sized robots. So I came down here in my prefabs and made a duplicate, and then put in a different sprite, adjusted the collider and all that good stuff. I created barriers around the edge of my screen, and then moved my actual physical colliders over to them. I could have probably given them their own box colliders, but it seemed silly whenever I already had something that worked, so I just shifted it over and covered it, and it's working just fine for me. I do notice one of my barriers is a little far in, so let's see, which wall sprite's on my right? That one needs to come out just a scooch, because it is not quite on the line. There we go. Okay. So that's fixed. Apply that back to the prefab because I will want to be able to use these over and over and over again in each of my scenes. What else did I do? I adjusted the size of some of my sprites. I changed some colors around. I used the main camera background. I haven't actually put a picture background in. If you choose to do that, that's great. Go for it. There's tons of sites that you could get cool backgrounds from. Say, for example, you go to, I think it was craftpix.net/freebies has a ton of backgrounds that if you wanted to put a background in your game, you could. All kinds of cutesy stuff that would probably match quite well. So any of those. Get a Halloween themed one would be very appropriate to the time of year. But anyway, I didn't put a background on mine, but you can if you want to. And I might add one later, maybe like a factory floor. But for now, I'm pretty happy with this. Right now, I have kind of the basics of the game set up. So next, what we need to do is go back to our kind of logic of how we need to be able to cycle through the game. So in the past, you've created multiple scenes where there's like a start game, there's gameplay, scene, and then there's the end game. So we're just going to steal that, basically. You're going to need to go over to your code from the number guessing project and just copy your scene loader script and create a new script in this game called scene loader and add that script to it, and we will use that to hook up some buttons so that we can have a start menu. We can go into our gameplay, and then whenever we lose or whenever we reach the end screen, we can cycle back to the beginning. Then we'll have kind of our core game flows done, and then we will give our game some more mechanics, like our enemies being able to move, maybe having some damage, and changing what sprite shows based on how damaged it is, and all kinds of fun stuff. So that's where we are for now, and that's where we're going.